All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Last Word on Rugby. It's another weekend of proper URC rugby. It's the Lions, it's the Sharks, it's the Stormers, it's the Bulls. Four South African sides in it to win it, trying to secure their places in the top eight of the tournament for that Champions Cup rugby and, of course, a quarterfinal. If you haven't yet, click that like button, subscribe. We bring you the freshest news on the South African rugby sides every week on the Last Word on Rugby. First up, we are chatting URC rugby. We've got a hot topic at the back end, so stay tuned for that. But the SA sides back in action after just the Bulls mounted a challenge late on, if I can say that, in the Challenge Cup quarterfinals. Unfortunately, not making it, but we focus our attention to what the URC will bring this weekend. And speaking about that Bulls game in Edinburgh, it's the Sharks in Edinburgh on Friday, and they need to win just to make sure that the Biltong
Yeah.
series, as Edinburgh has dubbed it, does not end up 3-0 in favor of the Scottish side. Mike, what can we expect from the Sharks that side?
Yeah. Look, just in general, the South African teams need to deliver now in the URC. Um, it's very clear that they wrote off the cup competitions, and whether that was right or wrong is a debate for another time. But the fact is they did. So the Sharks in particular just wrote off that game against Lyon. They kept back 14 first choice players. So not only the Sharks, but all the South African teams now have to deliver in the URC. The pressure is on them. They said we don't want to be part of the Challenge Cup. We're focusing on the URC. Okay, that's fine. But now they must actually play and deliver. So yeah, look, that Sharks side, I mean, wow. I went down to their training a few days ago, just before they left. Man, it was like watching the Springboks train. I mean, the team they are going to
Loaded,
A
put
loaded.
good
out
sign.
is fantastic. Um, and look, okay, so when the Springboks play Scotland, we expect the Springboks to win. When the Springboks play Edinburgh, give or take a few players, there should be expectation now on the Sharks to deliver. And I've got a feeling they will, because they really have put all the eggs into this basket. They've been training very hard for this specific game. Um, yeah, I see the bookies have got Edinburgh still slight favourites. But yeah, if the Sharks flop now, after all that they've done to indicate that they've targeted this game, then then there must be an inquisition.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the Sharks will play well, but let's see what they deliver.
Watch out for that Edinburgh team, guys. I warned you guys last week about the Bulls. You
Yes, you
guys
did.
said,
Indeed,
nah,
indeed.
Bulls is comfortable with it. And it turned out almost exactly as I thought in terms of
Yeah,
the tempo with which Edinburgh played. That
yeah,
4G pitch is something else, and
yeah.
our guys, as much as, yes, we're now playing it on that surface every year, it's not sort of day in, day out. We don't train much on it. And
Yeah.
the Bulls were just caught napping entirely that first half. Edinburgh
Mm,
played a typical Scottish quick game, getting off their feet, staying on their feet, quick offloading in the tackle. And before the Bulls knew it, they were 24-7 down at halftime, and yes, it was a great second half effort, and the Bulls sort of, brought on their bench and really got stuck in there. But as Jake White said, they ran out of time,
yeah.
and I tweeted at halftime that he should bring on the entire bench immediately. And maybe that was the difference, because he waited a few minutes with some of the guys. Only Johan Goosen really came on immediately at the start of the second half.
Yeah.
But I think the forwards really needed some boomer up front.
Mm,
And just that 5 or 10 minutes that he waited could have been the difference there. Bulls ran out of time. But yeah, Edinburgh, not going to be easy beats. Yes, Sharks
right.
should beat them with that full, proper Springbok
Yeah,
team. And they've rested as well, which will be the big difference compared to the Bulls. The Bulls that
yeah,
beyond the week before in the last 16 of the Challenge Cup in France. Whereas the Sharks team that have been over, are well rested after missing that one.
And yes, the Sharks will have gone to school on that Bulls game in Edinburgh, and obviously the Lions were there not too long after. As Edinburgh have said, it's the Biltong series. Okay, 3 games in a row against South African teams visiting them in that ground, which is the Harp Stadium. It's quite an interesting ground. It's actually in the car park of of Murrayfield. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's basically that's where they play. So yeah. Um, yeah, so I don't think the Sharks can have any excuses. You're absolutely right, Ashfaq. That Edinburgh team is not to be underestimated. But yeah, I mean the Sharks have got all the warning. They've watched the Lions perish there. They watched the Bulls struggle there, particularly in the first half. So they can't have any excuses. So yeah, let's see what they deliver because they've been forewarned. They know what to expect on that pitch and from a very good Edinburgh team, coached of course by by Sean Everett, who's a Durbanite born and bred, spent something like 15 years in the Shark system, going through all the age group teams, and then obviously parted ways, unfortunately, with the Sharks. I mean, it wasn't the greatest circumstances. Basically, he was sacked. So yeah, I mean, I know external forces shouldn't really dictate too much about how professional rugby teams play, but I would be pretty sure that Sean Everett would very much want to win this game.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. And it's like Asham said about that 4G pitch. It's like coming to South Africa and playing the Bulls and the Lions. It's a leveler. We've seen that over the
Mm.
past few weekends, and hopefully the Sharks have learned. They did not learn from the Bulls when the Bulls faced Leinster's B team, and they faced Leinster's
Yeah.
academy team in Durban. But hopefully
Mm.
they've learned now from the Lions and the Bulls facing Edinburgh away. Speaking about the Lions, it's do or die for them. You can't say it otherwise. They're playing Benetton, another team that loves to throw the ball around. Maybe they won't be too adjusted to the thin air at Alice Park this weekend, but for the sake of that South African sides, all of them want to be in that top 8. The Lions must certainly produce. They've been speaking week in, week out, Ash, about playing that full 80-minute game, but they
Yeah.
haven't delivered yet.
Yeah, the Lions nearly made of South African rugby over the last few seasons,
The
certainly
nearly men,
since
yeah.
last season. They promised so much. They scored some wonderful tries. They've even now got a few Springboks in their midst. They've been deservedly rewarded for their form over the last 2 years. But just we know when the crunch time comes, they just don't deliver. And I think it's got to do with game management as well. As much as we love the Lions playing this all-out attacking style, and it's wonderful to watch, sometimes you just got to cut your suit according to your cloth. And I think this weekend might be the time for the Lions to just rein themselves in a bit. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this because you guys know me. I love attacking rugby and give the ball air and
Yeah.
swing it wide and all these things. Like we call many names and units over the years. But Benetton thrive on loose ball. They thrive on taking you on with ball in hand. And the Lions just can't afford to give them those kind of opportunities. And I think the Lions have the pack to do the hard yards. I mean, we know them. Asenati, Klabakani, all those guys, Gary Landsberg, they get stuck in JC Victorious, Jared Keynes, Franco Horn, the list goes on, Ruan Pinter, all these guys. So they can do the hard yards. So I just think it's a matter of sort of grinding away at Benetton because if they're going to play with the backs all the time, yes, they have some lovely runners out wide, the Lions. We all know them, Kuhn Horn, Edo van der Merwe, Gianni Lomba, they fly off, a lovely playmaker, Henkel van Beek, I'm not sure about his injury situation at the moment. But yeah, they've got to sack runners. But first, soften up that Benetton pack. Make them defend at close quarters, first channel, second channel. And then if you can create that space as well. So I think it's a time for the Lions to just, and in that way utilize that altitude as well. Because if you're grinding away, mauling them, scrumming at them, that will just set that energy totally up with that Benetton.
Yeah, they're gonna get tired, yeah.
Yeah, look, I agree with you, Ashfaq. The Lions, we can't hear Ivan van Rooyen after another game saying, "Yeah, we created opportunities,
Yeah.
but we didn't
Yes,
take them."
I'm
Yeah,
tired
it
of that.
was a
Yeah.
game we could have won. No, man, listen, we're tired of that now. They're at home now. They've got to win four in a row to have a shot within of making the playoffs. Um, but yeah, no, Ashfaq, I'm gonna be like you now, and I'm gonna I'm gonna say the opposition team can't be underrated. That Benetton side is good, eh? They're basically three-quarters of the t Italy national team. They won't be scared of the Lions. They will actually see this as a game that they can win, to get them into consolidate their position in the playoffs. So they're not coming here cowed by the Lions. They actually will be targeting this game. But yeah, look, I mean, the conditions are expected to be really good. Um, uh, yeah, who will win it is really difficult to say, because we know we've been so disappointed by the Lions. But really, if they drop this game at home, wow, you got to start asking questions about, is the coaching staff correct for these guys, or is it the squad? But some kind of questions have to be asked. The Lions must win these next four games. Otherwise, we have to bring out the spotlight and ask why, like
Yeah.
seriously.
What's happening at Ellis Park? And I think the Sharks have something to do with that, Mike, because they've been shopping there quite a lot, and ever since the Edwin van der Merwe news broke, the Lions' attack just fell flat. I don't know if there's some correlation there, but hopefully not, and we'll see Edwin flying again at Ellis Park in the last of his four home games for the Lions. He drastically needs to get the ball in space. Hopefully, Krappies and the rest of the backs can do that for him, and then they can soften up Benetton ahead of their trip down to the Cape. Before that, the Stormers will look to soften up Connacht on Saturday uh, when they face the Irish side. Yes, like I think it's been a dreadful week for Connacht leading up to this game. They've lost two influential players in Bandi Aki and Mac Hansen. They were injured in the Challenge Cup quarterfinals, so they didn't travel with the team. They lost their two fly-offs, who's been starting ahead of Jack Carty, who's a Irish cap uh, fly-off, but he's fell out of favour at Connacht, and then their coach resigned. Yes, like I mean, talk about a build up to a game that they must win in Cape Town against the Stormers, who we all know love flying high in front of their fans. Asham, just on those setbacks, do you expect Connacht to put up any fight this side? Is that the motivation that you think they need to actually take on the Stormers?
It could very well galvanize Connor, backs to the wall totally. I mean, with all those kind of setbacks and situations there, no one was going to expect them, except their own fans, to win in Cape Town against the Stormers side, who should now. I mean, they well rested. They've got some big names back. We
Oh,
see
well,
Sasha Zulu speaking to the media yesterday or on Wednesday. Well-oiled machine now, surely for the last leg of the URC, because the Stormers haven't been involved in Challenge Cup either. So they've had time to prepare properly. So if Connacht, I mean, I'm sure they'll stand up to be counted. They're not a team that go away easily. They always have a good fighting spirit, tough to beat most of the time, even though they might not win every game. They will certainly be competitive. So it won't be a straightforward situation for the Stormers either. They've got to do their hard yards. They've got to win that front football, the collisions. Connacht is going to make it difficult at the breakdown as far as possible. Make it scrappy so that the Stormers don't just get that smooth ball for that lethal backline to fire. Now's the time for the Stormers also to stand up and be counted. This is our last chance saloon. They have to win every game, bonus point even to make the quarterfinals. So let's see what they can come up with.
Yeah, and this kind of situation where a team has all these negative sideshows in a week, it can go both ways. Um, and it depends on the leadership and the player group at Connacht. If they've got strong guys who can actually turn it around and say, well, okay, guys, it doesn't get a bigger challenge than this. Our backs against the wall, everyone's written us off. But yeah, it seems to me like there's just too much change there. Um, and and the Stormers really should capitalize that on that, and I think should win this one. But yeah, don't be surprised. I mean, Connacht are a proud team, and they might just have a couple of strong leaders in that team. I mean, we've seen Munster come to Cape Town and be completely written off. And have had a change in coaching staff and have managed to win a game. So it's not impossible, but really the Stormers couldn't have found a Connacht team more vulnerable than they are now, and particularly it's how they start, because if Connacht are trying to do that backs against the wall thing, if they get some headway early in the game, then they get the wind is in the sail, and then they start believing, so. The Stormers really want to start that game exceptionally strongly, snuff out any kind of challenge that the Irishmen are trying to bring, and if they do that, they should run away with it, I would think.
Yeah, and it was lovely listening to Sasha Feinberg and Gomez Zulu this week, saying that they have to go get that 5 points. They want to go get that 5 points. It will he alluded to that it would almost be criminal not to challenge for that 5 points in front of their crowd. They haven't played in Cape Town since early Jan, if I'm not mistaken. That was the Sail Sharks, and it's mid-April. So it's been a couple of
Yeah.
months that their fans have seen themselves. Them playing in the DHL stadium. So hopefully they can put up a show. They've got the fireworks up front at the back, and the fans will expect nothing less than that 5 points for them to hopefully break into the top eight by the end of the weekend. But the game,
And
I
let's not
think,
forget, guys, let's not forget there's also Springbok places up for grabs here. This is now the business end of the tournament in the URC and leading up to the international
yeah,
season. And there are so many players, as we've seen in the alignment camps. There's so many guys who deserve to be in that box setup. And we anticipate that for the Italy and Georgia test, there's going to be a bit of a younger look to the side and with the big guns rather coming back for Rugby Championship later in the year. So there's all to play for in that regard as well. And just in terms of number 8, Evan Roos, of course, we've heard about Jasper Wiese's operation recently. So he might also miss out this first few tests at least for the Springboks this year. So it's a chance for Evan Roos to really put his hand up. A lot of people talking about Cameron Hanekom, the Bulls number 8, and he's had a great season up to now. But Evan Roos, don't forget about him as well. He's a wonderful player, and if he can put a run together now, going through the rest of the URC
yeah.
and even sort of lead that charge to winning the title for the second time for the Stormers, that will really give him a good tick in Rassie Russell's book.
Yeah, and speaking about that the forgery of forging himself against international sides, if I can put it like that, Cameron Hanekom, this past weekend we saw him with 3, 4 players on him every time he touched the ball.
Yeah.
They're playing Munster this weekend. It's an Irish side, massive pack of forwards, and their tacklers will also be 2, 3, 4 on Cammy once he gets the ball in hand. Jake spoke about it, Asham. Just how crucial will that be for him to for a second weekend in a row? I think he will have to learn how to maneuver when he's trapped, if I can call it like that, with so
Yeah,
many
yeah.
defenders around
It's it's just been a bit of a tricky period for Cameron Hanekom over the last few months. That game against the Stormers in Cape Town, he had that great run from the kickoff, and he actually got
him.
hurt
Yeah,
in that tackle. And since then, he just hasn't been quite right. First it was a knee, then a calf, then he was going to come back. Then he had a back spasm on the Friday before the game. I think it was a zebra game. Then he was ruled out of that again. Then he came back the following week, off the bench against Bayonne. and now he started against Edinburgh on a 4G pitch against guys like Hamish Watson, Jamie Ritchie, seasoned internationals
Yeah.
who just know the sort of the shortcuts around the field, just where to get hold of him because they know Cameron Hanekom's the big danger in that Bulls pack. He can break the game open and he's just such an athlete and provides the energy there. So if you shut him down, you shut down a lot of the Bulls attack, certainly up front. And the same is going to come this week if Munster go with Peter O'Mahony there, Gavin Coombs, hardened guys, who are really shrewd operators around the pitch. They're going to gun for Hanekom again. I just feel that perhaps a week on now, Cameron will be sort of in better shape with regards to that. Just coming back into the swing of things and also putting a run on now for the Bulls to reach a top two in the URC. It's a big game for him. So if he produces again, same with the Springbok debate here with Ivan Lewis. If Cameron
Yeah,
Hanekom comes up with a big performance at Tolman Park in Limerick against a loaded Munster side, so many Irish internationals, he will really do his cause great there with the Springboks.
yeah, and I think what's happening with Cameron and getting all this attention now, it's just part of the development of when you're a really good young player and you're coming through. Um, in cricket, they talk about the second season syndrome, when in the first
Yeah.
season, a batsman can do nothing wrong. And, then the bowlers start working you out and it's not quite as good. And I know Cameron's not exactly in his second season. He's been, not too far off, but yeah, I think it's part of his development. And he'll learn so much from this. And I think he's got the talent, the pedigree to understand what's happening now, where he's being targeted. He's being seen as a playmaker, and he needs to be shut down. And and hopefully he comes through it. I mean, and as after this game now, this weekend is a perfect opportunity for him to show that he understands why he got targeted, and there are other ways to do what he needs to do. But it's all part of his growth, and I'm sure that he'll come through it.
Just if I may add as well, it's also some responsibility on his teammates, and
Yeah,
also
I
the
was just
coaches.
going to say,
You don't
yeah.
want just Cameron to get the
exactly.
ball all the time,
Yeah,
and then the defense
exactly.
know what's coming. Then they're
Mm,
just going to put two, three guys like that's
yeah,
what
yeah,
Edinburgh did last week, And
yeah,
so sometimes you've got to give the responsibilities to the other forwards as well to take those hard yards, those tight
Mm.
carries right next to the ruck
yeah.
and the breakdowns, to enable the space to open up out wide. And that's where Cameron is so effective in the wider channels. So if you
Yeah.
can do the hard yards, suck in that defense, and then unleash Cameron instead of making him run to that first channel, where there's an opposition loose forward and even a scum off in the fly, just waiting for him to knock him back. So Bulls must also be clever about that in how they utilize him. Go down the blind side a few times because he's got the pace to outstep even a few backs there. So yeah, so he's also got to be sharper and cleverer himself in terms of picking his moments. It doesn't need to be every ball that he must now tuck it up or try and take on the defense. Sometimes you must just be a bit patient as well.
I think that patience will be the key for the Bulls on Saturday. We know how Munster defend. They can really suck you in. They can tire you out. But the Bulls are so good when they get that go forward ball with their big forwards. They should not be dragged into a game that I'm thinking back to how Munster outfoxed the Stormers in this final year. If they get dragged into that game, Munster will surely take this. With just a bit of patience on the ball, and then get that go forward with the big guys, and then let people like Johan Goosen. I know you're a staunch advocate of Keegan Johannes. He was so good. Why he was taken off? Yeah, there's a debate about that, but they had another scrum off on the bench to take over from Mr. Burger. So yeah, we'll wait and see what the selection of Jake will be this week to see how he sees that game unfolding. Because after this one, they also have another difficult tour game before they can come back and say that we now galvanized for the final two games.
Yeah, it's Glasgow in Scotland next week for the Bulls, and that's a huge one because
Right.
they could actually,
Two
if
champions.
they can somehow pull off a result against Munster, if they beat Glasgow next week, then they will move up to second on the log,
Mm.
because Glasgow's second at the moment, 4 points ahead of the Bulls. So that's a huge one. Just in terms of selection, they also just quickly, I think Jan Hendrik Wessels should get a start this week for the Bulls. He's just been so destructive off the bench, whether he's at loose head prop or hooker, and he's another one pushing really hard for the Springbok birthday. I know he has been part of the squad already, but if he can get a run of stars going, even especially with Gerard Steenkamp still out injured for the Bulls there, even if he now operates at loose head prop, which I actually feel is his best position, Jan Hendrik. He will really provide that go forward, punch holes in the defense, and that just makes things easier for everybody else then to play and utilize the World well.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lovely weekend of a full weekend of rugby, and that's what we've been looking forward to. Um, since the Challenge Cup. Just lastly, what I do want to touch on, and it's someone we have been alluding to here and there on the podcast, but again, getting his foot in his mouth stuck again, Mr. Matt Williams. Just but this time around, it borders on. You don't say things like that. You don't speculate things like that, saying maybe the bomb squad had something to do with the injury to Stephen Kitshoff's spine and his retirement. Like, come on, there's just some bit of professionalism that you must have. You call yourself a pundit, but all you do is bash the Springboks and their bomb squad. I think someone needs to put a sort of a sock in his mouth and just make him keep quiet.
Yeah, I'm glad Rashid called him out as well. He didn't hold back this time to say,
Exactly,
how can he
exactly.
even say that, and to speculate about such a serious matter. I mean, the man's career is ended, and now you're saying it's
Yeah,
because of the bomb squad. That's just so offside, from Matt Williams. And for Rashid to respond and back his man and back the, the play of the bomb squad as well, that's vital as well because some teams, the French, as we've mentioned before, used it in the Six Nations as well. If you've got the players, why not? And I think, I mean, Matt Williams, I know he's an Aussie, but he's also former Scottish head coach. And we've said before how Gregor Townsend also sort of voiced his disagreement
yeah,
or
yeah.
concerns about the bomb squad. So, Scotland, we know just as competitive as they are, and they've got quick players up front. They may not have the big bashes that can really make a difference in a bomb squad situation in the second half. So, it depends on what the makeup of your team is. But for Matt Williams to go on about Stephen Kitshoff's neck injury having to do it, but I mean, it doesn't even make sense because it would actually mean
Yeah.
that Kitshoff has fewer minutes on the field
Played
because
less.
of the
Yes,
bomb squad.
exactly.
Whether he was starting or coming off the bench because the other front row is so strong, there's no need for him to play 60, 70, 80 minutes anymore. That was certainly the case, as we know. Even when Beast was here and then Oxenchair came through, Kitshoff didn't have to play so many minutes. So yeah, it just doesn't make sense, right, Mike?
Yeah, look, and if he'd done his homework, and I stand to be correct here, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Stephen got injured playing in a Currie Cup game in which he was starting. So, yeah, look, I know, I actually know Matt Williams. I wouldn't say terribly well, but I've met him in person and interviewed him a couple of times when he was the coach of New South Wales, and they came to Durban to play games, and I was with the Sharks as well, traveling overseas, and I've had a few sit-down interviews with him, and the impression I got from him is that he's a very sincere man. He's also a very well educated guy. I mean, he is most erudite when you talk to him. He's got university degrees. He's not silly. And which makes it all the weirder why he's made such a obtuse statement. Look, I mean, he's an Australian who coached Scotland, who settled in Ireland. Somewhere along the line, he got a little confused, as Matt,
Yeah.
and I don't think he's a guy who is into clickbait, is trying to sort of create headlines. I do think he actually sincerely means it. Um, but wow, he's got it just so badly wrong. I mean, and yeah, good for Rassie. And I wonder if Kitsy himself will actually make a statement. I wouldn't be surprised if he does. But yeah, Matt Williams, red card for you.
Yeah, no, no, definitely, and I think it's maybe time that he focuses his attention away from the Springboks and their bomb squad. Um, because if he runs into a couple of South Africans, whether it's in Ireland or wherever, he might get a unfriendly hello from one or two. That's all we have for you for today on the last word on rugby. Thanks, guys, for the chat again. We look forward to an eventful, packed weekend of United Rugby Championship matches, and then that build up to the final three games heading into the playoffs. Don't forget to click that like, subscribe button. We will be back next week with another episode where we will dissect the matches and see exactly where the South African teams are standing and if the Lions still can still make that top eight spot that they are gunning for. It's been another episode of The Last Word on Rugby. We'll check you in a week's time. Cheers.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.